biggest update to Spotlight ever. Did not expect it this year whatsoever. The last 48 hours have been wild.
Earlier this week at WWDC, Apple announced a whole redesign of all of their systems with liquid glass. But what they also announced is a revamped Spotlight, which caught all of us at Raycast by surprise, as you can imagine. So I got Thomas, our CEO, and Pedro, who you all know, together to talk about the event, the announcements, and what's going to be a Raycast. Let's have a look. What I wanted to ask is, how did it feel to be in that moment and to be surprised by Apple in that way?
When Apple started talking about macOS 26, Tahoe, you usually see those tiles of features that talk about. And that was sort of the first glimpse where the team spotted like, oh, there was a Spotlight icon, which felt like, uh-oh, what's that going to be about? And then the section started, biggest update to Spotlight ever
is with Spotlight.
It felt like, oh, wow, that's a lot of stuff that we do. When you hear it like the first time, it feels like almost a bit personal in a way. We always thought Apple at some point will add more features to Spotlight. But honestly, I did not expect it this year whatsoever.
Pedro, you were being quite salty on Twitter that day. As the kids say, you were whelmed at the updates.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, I had a lot of feelings and I was salty, man. Like, I'm quite a positive person, right? I might criticize stuff, but even then, it's usually like constructive. I agree with what I said still, but I think that I have a tone of speaking that can maybe be misinterpreted when people read. And a lot of people thought I was angry. I was not angry. I'm just a bit disappointed. Do I think it looks cool? Yes, I think it looks fucking cool. Especially in some more isolated examples where like you're scrolling down. It looks beautiful. It's a beautiful experiment, right? Do I want that all of the time when I'm using my phone for utility things? I'm gonna guess, no, I don't want it. And people go, man, but it's just a beta. Do you not know how beta works? Yeah, I know how beta works. I want to be hopeful that it's going to get better. I would love to be proven wrong that a glass UI at your operating system level is indeed something that people want. Time will tell.
What about you, Thomas?
I mean, first of all, I'm a sucker for every redesign. With Glass, actually, I think it can be quite nice because if you think about operating system needs to be a bit in the background, right? Like really what shines are the applications that are there. I think where Liquid Glass really shined from what I've seen and tested was in Apple's apps when they were really optimized for it, versus like all the other things that we're seeing right now, they haven't been built for it. So they haven't adopted that. And that's the really long time I think we're going to go into where other apps need to adopt it, they need to change their design language and how that's going to work. And so it's going to be quite interesting how much companies buy into it.
Do you see Raycast adopting some of that design language?
It's definitely the future. I don't see Apple going to go and roll it back. I mean, they're bold, they're pushed through. We always with Raycast wanted to feel as part of the operating system, right? Especially on the Mac. And so we're trying to adopt that to some degree, that it fits, but also making sure that we're basically keeping our own DNA. We're definitely gonna see how we can integrate Liquid Glass as much as possible, but also keeping our own brand identity that we also don't want to throw away.
I want to move on to the elephant in the room. One of the, well, at least for us, the biggest announcements in WWDC was the revamped Spotlight, right? With a lot of new features that were pretty similar to a lot of what Raycast has to offer, just to put it lightly. And just to name a few, they announced that Spotlight now has Clipper history. There's the ability to perform contextual actions directly within apps. There's what they called quick keys.
These are short strings of characters.
So I guess the question is for you both, maybe starting with Pedro, is Raycast dead?
I think Raycast is far from dead. The thing that I've been struggling with the most, and you as well, Bruno, like technically the hype team, is that our job is not just to market stuff, but it's also to educate. And in order for you to build the desire of a product in a specific category, you need to kind of at least make that category known. The category that we are in is the launcher category. Now, if you go and tell anybody that Raycast is a launcher, people won't really know what you're talking about. That's by far being the biggest challenge for us, to introduce the need of that category, educate about that category, so people can then even start to be curious about what Raycast is, and then know how they can use it, how it can improve their workflow, etc., etc., etc. Right? By Apple improving Spotlight, adding features such as clipboard history, alias, aka quick keys, and other things, it does so much of that work for us. I'm personally really happy that Spotlight gets better. Like, we already say that Raycast is a more powerful version of Spotlight, which I think that for the foreseeable future, this statement remains true. Some people at Apple have been watching our videos. That's the craziest thought. I'm not by any means saying that they're copying our videos. Apple, they're in a different league. They probably have a team of copywriters. It's not just the two of us writing scripts here. But like, there are some things that they said that if they hadn't watched our videos, it really validates some of the way we've been talking about Raycast.
Yeah, that brings me to what you tweeted, Thomas, because you said something really nice at first to the team and then on Twitter. How was the path to get to that feeling? Because I know that at first it was a bit shocking, but how was sleeping on it and getting to that conclusion?
Did I sleep well that day? Probably not. I think what I really felt is Apple needs to make features really, really, really accessible to a very, 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 very broad audience, right? Everybody who's getting a Mac should be able to use their features, which is very different to what we're trying to do, right? Like, we cater towards power users. This is really where our strengths come. And so what Pedro mentioned, like, oftentimes what we see is people start with using a launcher like Spotlight. It's the de facto default. So our first challenge is like, how do we replace that? You got to build a better product. And that's what we've been doing the last 5 years. Did the line shift that Spotlight has a few more features now? Sure, but that's fine. I mean, we're shipping every week another update. There is more stuff coming on our end. So after processing it for like 12, 24 hours, I felt like this feels so much more like a validation than anything else, because it feels like the launcher is something that is here to stay, that is going to grow in the future, that we can back on. But it maybe was also a bit of like, let's say, like a wake-up call of like, hey, if you're following us recently, we've been like busy with other things. We're building an AI chat, we have like an iOS app, we have notes, all of those other things. They obviously cost us a lot as a small company, where we also shouldn't forget what a launcher is and that we by far not finished building that experience.
Is there any other features that you saw from Spotlight that you think we could be inspired by or even do better? Yeah,
I think like there always was that basically pretty much everything is like available in Spotlight. You just search and you find it, which makes it to some degree easy to use. But it also brings in constraints because some things you can't do fast enough. You're better off by assigning separate hotkeys for things like a clipboard history where you can open it immediately. But because Apple needs to cater to a broad audience, they're going that path, which I think is super valid. I do think that it was quite interesting to see those separations, like those grouping where you can search either applications, files, actions, or clipboard, which is a bit like what we're doing, but like really nicely presented. I think that's quite cool.
I feel also like the new Spotlight has a very rich UI. You know, you got like, when you open it up, you got like this grid system of the icon, and then as you search, it changes to a list. And then you've got like the Spotlight itself, like the floating UI has the search bar, but then it has some extra buttons to the next of it, you know. Curious how that's going to feel to use the UI changing so rapidly. Because like when you get used to using not Raycast, but a launcher, everything happens so quickly, man. Like in less than a second, you've opened and you're already typing and you're already looking for. So I'm curious to see how that's going to work.
The other thing which Apple is so good at is animations. I poked around with Tahoe and the new Spotlight. And when you like press the hotkey of opening it, it has this really nice animation where it animates in Spotlight, like sort of dropping from the top. And then when you switch through those pills, really the fluidness of this liquid glass comes through, where it like sort of bubbles in almost. I wonder though if those like some of those animations can get a bit in the way when you use a tool like Spotlight and Raycast, like a launcher generally, because as Pedro mentioned, it's this thing you want to have as quick as possible. And if you have an animation that takes a couple hundred milliseconds. Like that takes a bit away from the speed. And it's interesting because Apple has, in macOS, for example, if you do a right click, the context menu shows up without an animation straight away to be precise and fast. But when you click outside of the context menu, it fades away. So there's like some of those nuances where like we think a lot about, like how can we, when you press the hotkey, show Raycast as quick as possible. But boy, are they gonna be good at making animations. It's just, yeah, that's just like so nice.
And you might already know about this, but my favorite productivity app on the Mac is called Raycast.
For years, man, we've been trying to get MKBHD to just say the word Raycast. Just say it, and he wouldn't do it. But because of this WWDC, he actually made his normal, reaction video where he talks about Raycast for quite some time.
Every fresh new Mac, I install it first.
It really caught me by surprise when he said that it's his favorite productivity app and it's the first thing he installs on every new Mac. That to me is almost like the best thing that's happened out of all this.
Yeah, I woke up to this news and it felt great. I really want to know how you felt, Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect it. And I got this video sent from various people. People who know Raycast, people like other founders reached out. There were so many positive reactions. And even the one I tweeted, like, Raycast is dead, they got bombarded by comments below. The best part was like just seeing like the positive reactions from people at MKBHD, which we try like Marques to mention us for like years. And then it happens at that time where we like would never ever expect it, right? The last 48 hours, like we basically 48 hours off the WWDC have been wild.
One of the things he was saying, like that's what in our industry we call sherlocked.
This is what we call in the industry getting Sherlock.
And I was like, hey, what are you gonna say next?
I know it's this hard thing, right? That's why I mentioned like they're catching up to 2019 Raycast. We're building 2025 Raycast. Like I feel like it's such a different thing that we're doing nowadays. We have so many features. People not installing just an app, they're like opting in for like a whole lifestyle, essentially. They're like saying, I want to have that. That's what we're trying to do for like 5 years. And like suddenly the biggest brands getting compared to you. I mean, you can't have it any better, to be honest. I mean, I'm feeling quite good about it.
Right. And it came out of nowhere, which was great. And I feel like now more than ever, we should continue doing what we've always been doing, which is we keep building, we keep shipping, we keep listening to what our community says. We stay focused on what we know how to do, building Raycast, making it so people can stay in the flow.
Back to building.